I also am recording.
Hey everybody, I'm Ross Johnson from the Sound of Tomorrow show. You're listening to WAYO 104.3 FM Rochester. Coming up next on that show that is the Sound of Tomorrow show, we're going to be talking about smart technology. Heather's going to be talking about her phone
Dumb
or something.
technology.
I don't know what that means.
Dumb.
And we've got some hot
Dumb.
picks and some other nonsense. That's coming up on the Sound of Tomorrow next, WAYO 104.3 FM Rochester. Stay tuned. Because it's like 5 seconds away. It's just coming. It's right now. If I stop talking, it would be here already. But it's still. So don't go anywhere is what I'm saying, because the show is starting like as soon as I'm done talking, which is right now. Hey everybody, I'm Ross Johnson, your favorite co-host.
And I'm Heather Zakowski, the babe with the power. You're listening to the Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO LP Rochester.
It's the time with the show where all come together and make love.
That's a racy one.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what you put on at the orgy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is that also like the t-shirt that you wear to the orgy?
Yes. Yeah.
Very
Well,
nice.
you can buy it at the orgy if you don't have one already.
At the
So
merch table.
yeah, it's better to
That's a good
pre-order
idea.
than you. I mean, but
Pre-order and
I,
pick it up. Well, because you might not bring your wallet to the orgy, you know?
I
You might
don't
leave
know.
it in the car.
How do you pay for the orgy then?
Maybe you pre-buy that too. I really don't know. I'm
Our
admitting my
orgy.
inexperience with this.
I know. I don't know if orgies are free or not. I've never.
I'm assuming there's like, oh, there's more than one kind.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
I've, I guess I, I guess three. Well, four. I guess four. Four people in a room isn't an orgy, right?
Just in a room?
Yeah. Well, no,
Just
just playing Scrabble. Yeah.
yeah.
In a sexual context, you wouldn't call that an orgy, right?
I don't think four. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound like enough. I mean, again, I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Well, then I have never been to an orgy.
Yeah, no, me neither. And remember at the beginning of the pandemic, people were having their online sex parties and we tried to get them to invite us.
Oh, and nobody ever did.
Nobody ever did. That
Ugh.
just made me think of this. I guess every 3 years we have to do something about orgies on this show.
I forgot how bitter I was about that. That
You
nobody.
really wanted to go. I was like, I don't know, y'all. Like, I'm in my house. I'm tired.
I am the thirst trap king of social media, and
Still,
still not
no
invited to the online sex
invitations
party.
to online sex parties.
Yeah,
That's a shame. I'm surprised. I am surprised, especially with the thirst trap game.
I know. I
Goodness
mean,
me.
I'd have to ask my husband, so it would be awkward. Just not because he'd be like judge you, not because he would refuse me permission, just because he'd be like, okay, whatever, Russ.
See, I
Sure.
thought you would invite him too. Like the more
I
the merrier,
guess.
right?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I don't
mean,
know
we've
if
never been invited, so I guess we don't know how it works.
right, and I don't know, having never been invited to an online sex party, I don't know if my husband is an online sex party kind of guy, you know?
Hey, you could probably talk about it over dinner tonight.
Unless he's invited, maybe he's invited to online sex parties all the time, and I just, and he doesn't want to tell me because he knows I'd be upset that I'm also not invited.
I mean, you'd think they'd have a plus one.
Something. I mean, I feel like if you're having an online, I mean, unless you've got a unless you are, there's the friend that like, or the acquaintance or the coworker that you're sort of like, okay, I sort of hope, I don't want to be shady about it, but I sort of hope Tina does not get wind of the party. you know, that
That's what
like
you
that
say
person.
about me.
Correct. So but yet you catch wind. So
Always.
always you
It's
have a
because you're
network
the
that
only
is.
one who hopes I can't make it. The other people know I'm a lot of fun.
That's true. That's true. Um, what were we talking about? I don't know. I saw Heather. You know what I saw right before the show?
What you see
So
right before the show?
I don't know if I can describe this in good enough detail. So I saw, this is not funny what I'm about to describe to you, but it's really funny also. So I saw so PragerU is some weird online educational Christian wild Trump thing. And they are doing some of the educational materials for Florida. So before this, I saw, and I had to like quadruple check to make sure this was real and not just something somebody made up. So there's an animated video that you would show to your children, and I guess is now available and being shown, as far as I can tell, in the state of Florida to children. It is so it's a little cartoon, and it's Frederick Douglass talking to white children
Yeah.
about how slavery is bad. I don't want to characterize this. People should just look this up, but it's like slavery is bad, but the founders,
Yeah.
they all hated slavery. It was really bad, and they all hated it, and they wanted to get rid of slavery really bad. And America was the only country that ever thought to get rid of slavery, even though we were the last major country to get rid of slavery. But
Uh-huh.
we were the only ones who ever thought of it. No one else had done it before. So there's a mix of weird. The whole thing is a mix of like outright falsehoods and then weird, like, okay, that's the interpretation, that's the spin you're going to put on that. Okay, so explaining to the white children that the founding fathers were great and they all wanted to get rid of slavery, and the Constitution, was this document of liberty, even though it enshrined slavery. Um, and that I'm trying to think. So, and then he talks about William Lloyd Garrison, who was who was the a prominent white abolitionist. And William Lloyd Garrison was one of those kind of, I mean, the best part of the video, and when by best I mean worst, but he's like, William Lloyd Garrison I'm not friends with anymore, because this is also weird, like it's sort of said in weird tenses.
Yeah, I'm not
because
friends with anymore.
because as Frederick Douglass in it, why is he talking to these modern children, but he's in the
Right.
past? It's very confusing. But he's not friends with William Lloyd Garrison anymore, because William Lloyd Garrison's one of those people that just wants to throw a big fit and yell and scream and set things on fire. And the kids go, we know people like that. We know their kind.
Whoa.
And Frederick Douglass is like, mm-hmm. So it's this whole thing about Frederick Douglass explaining why, yes, slavery is bad, but really you shouldn't be too mad about it. And luckily the United States never liked slavery, even though we always had slave. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, really, it would take you 5 seconds of watching this, even if you knew nothing about American slavery, to be like, wait a minute. So all the founders hated slavery, but they didn't get rid of slavery. And then slavery is really bad, but you should never like raise too much of a fuss about it.
Wow. So I
It
was,
was wild. And it's like, except that it is what a whole generation of children is going to grow up learning, and that's going to destroy our country and burn it to the ground.
yeah.
It's genuinely hilarious. Like, if it were done as a
But if it were satire.
if it were satire, it couldn't have been more satirical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so just to go along with this, I also read today on salon.com that in Florida, children are being taught that, yes, enslaving people is bad. It's very bad. But the enslaved people did learn a lot of valuable skills that they could go on and use to better their own lives
Oh yeah, that's
when they
actually
were enslaved.
yeah, Kamala Harris has tried to make an issue of that. I say tried, not that she's failed, but I mean, are these people listening? I have no idea. But yeah.
No, they're not listening.
And what was wild about that conversation, I mean, that conversation is wild. So I don't, it doesn't need more, but I was seeing it turned into one of those things where people were like, no, 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 no. They're saying this, but this is really the context. You need to listen to the context. And then they'd be like, the context is slavery was bad, but also they learned really important skills. So it was sort of good for people to be enslaved. And you're like, wait, but the way they say, it's always that tone, like, no, okay, Heather Zykowski, you want to bring up to me this thing that you supposedly heard about how we said slavery wasn't so bad. Well, here's where you're just making stuff up and wrong and not taking the context, because the context is we're saying that slavery was not so bad.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then they just walk away like, well, I guess I told
we've
her.
Proven our point. It's like,
and I think they believe it.
I think they do.
Like, I think once they get that tone,
yeah,
They think they're done. They did it.
Yeah.
I've explained it to you.
No, I think they do. And I feel like maybe, I mean, this has definitely always happened, but I feel like it's much less challenged these days. Like last time we recorded, I had that thing from my relative about that small town song, and everybody was going like, "This is about community in a small town," and we were both like, "No, it's not. It's about vigilante justice."
Mhm.
And I do feel like that was another one where people were like, "No, small town people support each other." It's like, but that, and it just leaves you kind of going like, but because they do just like open the door and yell what they said again, and then they like smile and slam it. I was like, but you,
Yeah.
I,
Like, haha, I win.
it's like, but you didn't win. You said the thing that isn't true again, or you said the thing that is true that you think is true. That then you said like you didn't think it was true, but you do.
Well, and this is why, like, I'm not proposing that. I think there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of miseducation and a lot of people being led in certain ways, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for it. I'm not saying, we need to write off 30-40% of the population, although I'm getting close. But I think that people of good conscience who aren't stupid, I think they need to get serious. I mean, we talked last week about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I think is like the third running presidential candidate right now, maybe fourth, somewhere top four of possible presidents, right? Of 350 million people in the country, he's in the top four of people who might be president. He doubled down this past week on Hitler stuff. I don't
No.
even know if I want to go into it, but he did that. The 1488 thing. I don't want to read his tweet because it's the 1488 thing is there are, and again, please just feel free to look this up on your own because I don't want to go into all this. But 1488 is one of those like let's go Brandon things
Okay. Okay.
where people are like, oh, I just said let's go Brandon, but the 14 refers to this sentence that's something like we must secure a homeland for white children or something like that. And then the 88 is the letters H. The 8 corresponds to the letters H, so it means Heil Hitler, right?
Oh.
And it's
Okay.
one of those
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
things
I
where,
didn't know that.
yeah, so it's one of those things where of course someone might use the number 1488 or the numbers 14 and 88 in close proximity, and it could be a coincidence, but it's a lot more of a coincidence with people who are known to associate with anti-Semites and have said things like a week ago that the Jews created COVID. So but so he tweeted this sort of, and you could tell it was what drew attention to it was the fact that it was sort of a bunch of nonsense. That just this very awkward tweet that happened to bring the number 14 and 88 to within a couple of characters of each other. And it was like it served no other purpose. Anyway. And again, yes, these things could possibly be a coincidence, but when you're very awkwardly putting together a couple sentences into a tweet and you just spent the last week talking about how the Jews created COVID, you
Yeah.
sort of lose the benefit of the doubt. So,
Mhm.
of the top four presidential candidates, three of them, I will say Robert F. Kennedy Jr. now is actively pro-Nazi at this point. Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. I don't, there's not, to me, there's not a distinction between if you're hanging out with like Holocaust deniers, neo-Nazis, white supremacists,
Yeah.
active people, there's no distinction to me between like, oh no, these are just people I like invite over to dinner, but I'm not like that. And I mean, you get to a certain point where no, that doesn't work, right?
It certainly doesn't. I mean, what is the adage? You lay down with the dogs, you're going to get up with fleas.
Yeah. And it's not like this is somebody's awkward mom. And even like, let's say that Donald Trump were hanging out with his mom, who was a Nazi, right? Even then, I think in public life, even in that very specific case, that it, could be a difficult situation for someone. Even then, I think if you're going to be in public life, you still need to say like, yes, my mom is a Nazi, and I
Mhm.
100% disavow that.
I think you
And
do. Yeah.
so, and my point with all that is three of the top four people in the entire country who could be the next president. Like one of them will almost certainly be the next president. Three of them are either active neo-Nazis um, or perfectly happy to associate in a way that just makes them the same as, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no difference in my mind. Um, they're people that deny the Holocaust. They're people that blame Jews for weird things and have give them magical powers to do evil things as though it's the Middle Ages.
I
And we're just ascribing weird magical superpowers to Jews. Um, my point with all that is I think people need to get serious about pretty much everything in this guy. And I'm not saying it's just about one election, because I know we put all our weight on a single election, and that's not all there is to it. There's a lot more. I think people need to get very serious about what's going on, because I think that we've seen what's happened to women. We've seen the consequences to women and women's bodies. We have certainly seen what's happened to trans people and queer people. We've seen what's happened to refugees and immigrants. We've seen what's happened with Black people. I mean, these are we've seen what's happened with, I mean, now old-timey weirdo Jew stuff is like
yeah.
stuff that is mainstream. I mean, is the fact that large percentages of people in the country, there's an RFK Jr. sign on my street. The man who tweeted Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
my street. I mean, in my neighborhood, not on my exact street, thank
but
goodness. But
still, I mean, it's really frightening to think about.
Mhm.
There are so many things that I really felt at one point not too long ago, like, oh, there's progress in a good way. People are moving toward equality. People are being granted freedoms. And it seems like for real, like there's been an enormous backslide. And
we no
it's
longer bring up weird magical Jew evil
right.
power stories in polite company.
Yeah,
That's no longer a thing that people do in
right.
polite company. If they believe those things, they know better than to bring them up,
And they
because
keep it
people
to
will go, "That
themselves.
is stupid."
Yeah. And they'll go like, are you okay?
Right.
You believe in unhinged things and we're worried about you. And I was
Right.
just like, oh yeah, makes sense, doesn't it? It's like,
I mean, it makes sense that Jews have magical superpowers to do evil.
no, I mean it's really scary. And I was reading just kind of briefly today all of the stuff that DeSantis is doing in Florida to just ruin the public school system.
Yeah. Well, and
And that's not just Florida. I was reading about Florida today, but we've talked about plenty of other states where that's happening. And it's really doing a detriment to the next generations.
yeah. Oh yeah. And I don't think that negative consequences, like in Florida. So there was an article this week about the convention business in Florida, which they're booking, conventions book years ahead. Somebody was saying, they're already booking in 2030, except that they're not, because Jewish groups, Jewish groups are reluctant to go to Florida, which if you can't get Jewish groups to go to Florida, I mean, you know, groups and companies that are concerned about Black people won't go there. Groups and companies that are concerned with queer people won't go there.
Yeah.
Groups that are concerned about women won't go there. So they're already starting to see losses into the millions of dollars. But I don't think it's going to matter. And I don't think
No.
where I say I think we need to get serious is I think we need to stop, as much as these things are important to talk about. I think trying to get into these we've talked about trying to logic with people and getting into these pedantic arguments about stuff. It's pointless, because I guarantee you what'll happen in Florida is they will lose all this money, and that impact will be felt in the state, and they'll go, well, must be Joe Biden. And
Oh,
they'll wear it like a
yes.
badge of honor. It'll be like,
Oh.
oh, we will sacrifice. It'll be either we will sacrifice for the Lord, or whatever the cause is, and that's fine, and we're proud of that. Or it's Joe Biden ruined our economy by making queers.
Yeah, I'm sure it will somehow be blamed on the corrupt Biden administration when really it is, okay, your state has gotten really, really scary and dangerous in a number of ways, and people don't want to come there anymore.
Yeah. A very um a very straight line there. you
A
know.
direct, like you can see it.
In fact, the people that were going to give you money that are no longer giving you money, meaning these businesses and groups and
Yeah.
organizations, are saying this is why we're not giving you money anymore.
They're telling you why.
hmm
But again, that's the whole denying of reality that I think has always gone on, but now it is just completely accepted. So we could say, like, we are not bringing the Sound of Tomorrow tour to Florida because it is unsafe and we don't like that they're trying to erase queer people. And then Florida will go, like, oh, corrupt Biden keeps SOT tour from Florida. And then we'll put out a press release saying why we're not going to Florida. And then Florida will be like, Biden agents won't come to
hmm
Florida. And it's
hmm
like, no. I think that's part of like where I get so defeated because I I have enough Trump voters in my life that I do have these conversations. And when again and again you say things like, well, he said he likes to grab women by the bleep.
hmm
No, he didn't. He did. No,
Well,
but he did. Like it gets very exhausting.
it's well, and this is, and I sort of gave up. I really did, because I mean, this is like 2016 was honestly, and I feel like I came to this revelation early in a good way. um, because I had an old high school friend who I was like, I had posted something on Facebook, and now I don't even bother. But I posted up something on Facebook about like, here's what Trump says about what he's going to do with queer people, and it's not good. Whatever it
Mhm.
was, whatever the specific issue was.
Well, I remember my personal meltdown was Trump had sworn that he was going to make gay marriage illegal.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it might have been that. It might, I can't remember, but it was,
That was one
and he's
facet, though.
and he says stuff. I don't know. Yeah. And this high school friend put in the comments like he would never do that, and I was like, and I was very terse. I was like, well, there he is saying it.
Yes.
It's a video of him saying it.
Yeah.
Um, and he was like, he waited a while, and then he started like DMing me, and I eventually just blocked him. I mean, because I was like, this is pointless. Because I was trying to like, I was, I guess it was early enough in the game that I was not understanding what I was trying to kind of figure out. Like, I don't understand what's, like, he said it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
video of him saying it.
Yeah.
He's not denying he said it.
Yeah.
If he were here in the room with us, I think he would say, yeah, Ross is right. I said that.
Yeah. Or
What are
he'd
we
call you by a
arguing?
slur and say
Right,
that you
right,
were right.
right.
Yes,
Like
no.
what are we arguing about? So and but he went on, and he was like, well, I'm very upset and offended that you would. I mean, he was like, and I really think he believed that he was absolutely being wronged. Um, that I had called him out publicly. I mean, again, I just responded to his comment.
Yeah.
Um, but it was the weirdest thing, and I was like, you know what? I do not have the patience to argue with people who are not listening, who have no interest in listening. Not even that they're not going to change their mind. They're not even going to try to
Mm-hmm.
come up with a counter argument. They're just going to ignore what you say. And I just have no patience with that.
Yeah, and that's where it gets tough for me because I try very hard not to broach these subjects with the Trump voters in my life, but sometimes they come up
Mm-hmm.
and then I can't just say something like, "Well, it never goes well when we talk about this stuff." So, how's your lawn coming
Yeah.
along? Like I really really should learn to absolutely shut it down like that. But I'm not perfect. Sometimes I feel combative. Sometimes I've
Yeah.
got a lot to say. Sometimes I also feel like I need to bark.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know. Again, I don't know what this. I don't know what the solution is there with to educate people who don't want to be educated. And I don't say that in a snotty way. I'm a person who needs to be educated on all sorts of things.
Me
So
too, so much.
if you've got some truth for me, lay it on me. Or if you have a different perspective on something that I feel strongly about, lay it on me. I don't care. That's fine. And maybe I will, I will consider what you say, but if but I'm not going to have a debate with, again, someone who refuses to learn, refuses to even consider my position, refuses to even, I mean, and again, like the situation with the friend from high school friend,
Hmm.
I was like, I don't even understand what we're talking. I don't even understand this conversation. Like, I don't even understand where I just presented you with a clear cut fact about a thing and you're denying it and getting very upset and like
Yeah.
being mad at me because he was sort of like, I mean, because it was sort of like, well, I don't hate gay. He was trying to be like a defender of gay people or something. I don't know. Like, I can't understand. I can't even like describe the conversation because I don't understand what was going on, and I feel like that happens all the time anymore. And again, I feel like I'm someone, I at least listen to myself.
I
Like
try to listen to myself
if
and
I
be
say
like,
something
wait, did I make
stupid,
sense?
if I say something stupid, I usually, even if I'm even at my worst, like you said, if I'm just feeling like I'm barking, sometimes you don't, you know, but I will usually pretty quickly thereafter be like, wait, that didn't make sense. What I was saying, I was just barking. I was just throwing a fit. That didn't make any sense. That was not a solid argument, or that was really stupid.
I mean, I do make sense when I'm doing the barking because it will be repeating things like, you voted for a rapist in that tone, like
Yeah.
again and again and again. I'm not saying this is a good trait of mine. I'm saying it is a trait of mine and I recognize it. So usually, it's something like that. That's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
pretty. It's not fun.
Yeah. I
But yeah, with the breaking up gay marriages and making them illegal again, that barking was, but he said he would. But he said he would. Again, not pretty.
yeah.
But I was right. He did say he would.
Yeah.
Because I got the
And
same response of like, he's not going to. But he said he would.
yeah, and yeah, sometimes it comes down to that too. And I've got one of those who I interact with very little, but on occasion do. And when such things come up, yeah, I get the, oh, but he won't. There's a lot of the we have gone far afield here, but there's such a weird thing with the Trump personality where I there is no politician that I care all that much about, really, honestly. I mean, there are people that I respect. There are people that I think like do a
Yeah,
pretty good job, but
sure.
there's nobody I'm going to buy a flag of and put on my house,
No.
because I don't care that much. So it's weird with the Trump because with the person in my life who's sort of similar to that, who I interact with very little, but occasionally does happen. There's a lot of like, oh, well, he wouldn't really do that. Well, he wouldn't
Yeah.
really. And it's like, well, okay, but he said he would. You're acknowledging that he said he would. So there are all these things that you seem to disagree with because you're saying like all these major issues that you seem to disagree with because you're saying he wouldn't really do it. He said he would do it. So are you voting for someone who's lying to your face about a whole bunch of stuff he says he's going to do? Are you voting I don't
Do you
you
want
just
people to
love him
not keep their campaign promises?
you just
Like these are campaign promises.
and it's weird. It's just the person about abortion is an issue of abortion rights were always a tenant of this person's, and but that was overridden by a love of Trump.
And that
And
is,
even when the Supreme Court, even when Roe v. Wade was overturned, it was like, oh well, I wish they hadn't done that, but oh well. And this person will vote for Donald Trump again, I guarantee it.
yes, as will the Trump voters that I know.
So I don't understand that either. I mean, again, I don't. There's no, like I said, we've talked about Joe Biden. He's fine.
Yeah.
Fine. He's not perfect. I mean, there's stuff I love. I don't know. I don't know. Love is too strong a word. There's stuff I like that he's done. There's some stuff that he stands for that I think is good. there's other stuff I would argue about. If he were gone tomorrow and someone, I'm not saying like, in a bad, I'm saying like if it were not Joe Biden, it were someone else who was kind of
Uh-huh.
on the same wavelength or a little better, I'd be like, bye, Joe Biden, have fun, see you over there. This new person I'm sure will be fine. Like, I don't think it's healthy to
Yeah,
have
I don't have
more.
this passionate love
Mhm.
for any politician.
Yeah. Yeah, like people, I liked Barack Obama as a person.
Yeah, I liked Obama.
Um, there was stuff that I did not like at all about, you know, things that happened in his administration. There were things that I liked. So I
Yep.
could, if I had to sit down and give a full report card, it would be a very complicated picture with a little bit of like but he seems like a nice guy. But
Yeah.
that's,
I
again,
always
I'm not
have,
going to put the flag up on my house
yeah, like
unless it's like a week from the election. And I'm doing it, that's, I might put the yard sign out, but that's, that's
yeah.
as far as I'll go.
Yeah, like my tone when I say I like Obama is usually like, I like Obama.
Yeah, it's fine.
Kind of with that admission, like, not saying he was perfect by any means. Does seem like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Not flying a flag. I don't even really put the campaign signs out in my yard for anyone.
Yeah. I'll do the campaign signs, but like a week before the election if it's
Yeah.
important. And I feel like, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
sort
I
of the
don't
same
know.
reason I wear sort of the same reason I wear gay stuff, especially being in the suburbs. I have this idea that like I'm not going to change anyone's mind, but I can create a safe space for people who,
Yes.
again, it's why I try to wear like gay stuff to my suburban gym. So I can be like, hey, if you're maybe a younger or not necessarily even younger, but if you're a person who's less secure about being queer, maybe it would help you to know that there is.
Yeah, and that is why I tend to fly the flags I do on my house. Like for a long time, I had a pride flag and that got all tattered. And then I put up a Black Lives Matter flag and that got all tattered. And again, I don't know if these get tattered just out of wind and sun or if it's something more nefarious than that. But now I've got one of those big, like, science is real, women's rights are human rights, all
Mhm.
that stuff in the rainbow colors and everything. And that is starting to also get tattered. So I've got to find a new one to put up. But that I will do that kind of,
I think I
I don't want to say signaling because that's such a loaded word, but I started because some people that you and I actually know, this was years ago, had the pride flag on their house burned.
yeah.
And I immediately bought a pride flag kind of as a like, oh, you want to start burning stuff? You know, come over here, try me.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a defiance there too. Like, um, with our of course the pride flag we recently bought was like, of course, because being middle-aged homosexuals and terribly stereotypical in so many ways, we can't just get the pride flag. So Mike got the pride flag from the designer of the. It's not the most so it's not the intersex inclusive pride flag.
Okay.
But it's the progress pride flag. So it's not the most current flag, but and of course it's like signed by the designer of the
Yeah.
progress. So his
Right.
his comment was like his comment was like this flag costs a lot of money, so they better not set this on fire.
Yeah.
So far so good.
Good.
Um
Yeah.
but
I think, again, you being in the suburbs, if it's right up on your house, right?
yeah,
Like someone would have to make a pretty good trek to get to yours.
and I'm pretty sure Ileana would let us know.
Yeah, here where I am, it's a lot easier. And I've
Mhm,
definitely come out a couple times and the flagpole's really pretty well into the holder, but I've
mhm.
had it like as though somebody was trying to pull it out,
Yeah,
which, or you know what? Go for it.
yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of a. I mean, not that I want to invite trouble, but there's a little
But
bit of
I
like a.
do. There is a like, this is here for a reason, trying to make a statement.
But
Ross,
anyway,
do you
I
want to
don't know.
flex to a completely different topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Wow. I have a new phone number. Do you
Wow.
know what never happens
How
anymore?
how interesting.
People don't get new phone numbers anymore.
Okay, this is I'm gonna call you out here again as I do sometimes. People get new phone numbers all the time, but go
Do
ahead.
they really? I haven't
Well,
gotten a new phone number in like I don't know, 20, 25 years.
Okay. Well, because you just have the
So,
one on the wall in the kitchen, right?
yeah.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh. So, I've been thinking about doing some traveling lately, so I changed my phone plan to include the Todo Mexico y Canada,
Oh,
but it wasn't working. So, I contacted the phone company, and of course, they were like, no, sorry, we don't know why it wasn't working, but we can give you the $5 back for the add-on. And I was like, that would be awesome. Thank you. And
so wait, what wasn't working?
sending texts to Canada, they weren't
Oh,
going through. And it was supposed to allow me to presumably text in Canada and Mexico and also text to Canada and Mexico.
huh. All right. This is interesting. I don't know what your
Yeah,
phone company is, and I don't want you to tell me, but I didn't know that that was a.
it's a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when I went to England, I couldn't just have service turned on for international because my company doesn't do international except Canada and Mexico.
Okay.
So I had to buy a new SIM card and stuff and turn my phone into an English phone while I was there.
Is this a phone company that anyone will have heard of?
Yes. In
Okay.
fact, I was telling this story at a family lunch over the weekend, and my sister had also been with that phone company forever and recently switched. It's a common one. But
Okay.
so customer service, they were going to give me $5 back, which I like $5. Why not? Um, so what they
Except you
did
didn't.
was they went and disconnected my line and canceled my account.
Huh.
So all week long, I was on with customer service trying to get my account restored. Do you know what they couldn't do?
Give you back your phone number.
Turn my account back on. Yeah, and they couldn't give me back my phone number. It was bizarre and it was the worst runaround in the world. Finally, by Friday night, I was like 8:30 p.m. I was expecting company at 9. They're like, you need to go to the name of store redacted store and they can fix everything for you there. So I find out where the store is. I roll up in there on Saturday and they're like, well, we can't do any of that. They can do so much more online than we can do. I'm like, I
Uh,
I did it. I accepted defeat. They won.
I know. Sometimes you have to.
I
Well,
mean, I
what are you
thought,
gonna do? Like
yeah,
spend
not
your
have a phone,
be on
like
your deathbed, like yelling at someone because you don't have the same phone number?
yeah, and I mean, it was so frustrating and still like I need to demand restitution. So I need to get back on the old customer service horse. But it was such a freaking ordeal. I could not believe it.
That's that's wild.
It was so bad. And the one thing that I can say is customer service was really awesome about acknowledging how frustrating this was for me and saying that they were frustrated on my behalf. They were super nice and completely ineffective.
I'm still stuck on you couldn't call Canada before.
No,
Like you didn't have long distance. I don't,
right.
I'm still confused about your phone plan, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's domestic only. Like I can call California just fine. Or maybe I can't now. I don't, I mean, I got this whole new setup because, of course, when I was choosing my new plan, the woman at the store is like, well, the plan that you have is very, very, very old, like you, ma'am. And we don't have that plan available anymore. Of course, yeah, because I signed up for it like 25 years ago. But so, anybody out there who knows me well enough to be calling or texting, I don't know, like message me. You can figure out how to get a hold of me.
Okay. This is making sense to me now. And I'm not saying this to like neg your story or anything. I was just trying to figure out, like, I've never heard of a phone plan where you can't, like, there are plans where they charge you more. Like like with us, I think we pay a little more to get reduced like international. Actually, no, we don't have to do anything to get, like, Canada and Mexico are just like part of our that's part of our basic plan. But I know we've also had old plans
Mm-hmm.
that we have just been stuck in.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't think not being able to call Canada is a thing anymore. Is
I
it?
mean,
Is
maybe
it
with
with your new?
I
I've
I
just never
have
heard of that.
So I've only had the plan since Saturday, and I haven't
Okay.
even really looked into it. It's been a lot more of like, where all do I need to update my number so that people can get a hold of me?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing with like friends and stuff, but then you start thinking about things like, oh, the doctor's office that always texts me. And then I text back yes to say that I'm going to be at the appointment.
Yeah.
Like I've got to remember all of those.
Yeah.
So that's going to be dumb.
I bet you can
Um,
call Canada now.
Maybe I can. That would be nice.
But sometimes like so I think the way it works sometimes is that um depending on your plan, it might be more, it might cost more or whatever, but
Well, I will see what happens. I was also informed that if I go to the gas station next to the name of phone company redacted store, I can pick up a burner and that'll work in Canada. So I've got plan B for if I decide to cross the border.
I feel like in the process of doing all this, you should switch your provider.
Well, that was why at family
I assume,
lunch,
by the way, we're talking about a cell provider, and I probably shouldn't make that because you keep saying phone company, which is not really terminology
it
that
is a
people
cell
use anymore.
provider. It's a
Okay.
mobile service for
I should
my
be clear that
mobile phone.
okay, I wanted to make clear. And again, I assumed that's what you meant. I just I wanted to
No,
make
I
sure that you
mean,
weren't talking about like your Mickey Mouse phone in the kitchen.
I am the kind of person that if I said to somebody like, yeah, I still have a landline, no one would be surprised.
Oh no, not at all.
No one. In fact, I think it's probably more surprising given the kind of person I am that I don't have a landline.
It is a little bit.
I really seem like a person who has a landline. I might even still have dial-up internet. Like that's that's my vibe.
Yeah.
But no, I'm talking about my cell provider.
Okay. So
And
you're not
I
insulted that I had to ask that question. I hope.
no.
Okay.
No, I mean really, because on occasion I have my weird old-timey relics.
Mm-hmm.
And then on occasion I have things where it's like, oh, Heather actually does use new stuff. All right. Oh, she can text. It's like, yes, and I do a lot. But
You stopped whatever was because your texts used to come through in like
in
for a long
blocks,
time until
right?
recently in blocks. Like you could only text like 5 words at a time or something. So it wouldn't just be like a sentence, it would be like a telegram.
I can't stand it when people text like that. And I believe that's the difference. Like, I might still come through to iPhones like that.
You don't to me anymore.
Okay, good. Um, yeah, and then I've noticed there are weird phone things where people can react a text,
Mm-hmm.
but it just quotes your entire message to them and puts the react on it.
Okay.
I cannot react texts,
Okay.
which is for the better.
Probably.
But yeah, um, but yeah, so I had a really, really, really frustrating week last week that involved a
Yeah.
lot of customer service
Yeah. I
and a
wouldn't have liked
lot of
that.
like, okay, we're going to restore your account now. And I'd heard that often enough that I was like, you can't. But they'd still try. And then they'd be like, oh, I can't. And I'm like, I knew that.
Did you at any point consider just going to a different provider?
I
Because it sounds
should
terrible.
have. I should have.
I
I
know you're
think
like
I
in the middle of
was,
it and you don't think to be like, just stop what you're doing and I'm going to go
well,
someplace else. But
the thing was, I went to the store hoping against hope, like they will get this sorted and they'll restore my number.
yeah.
And so while I was at the store was when I was just like, here's my soft white underbelly. I'm rolling over. I accept defeat. Whatever I need to pay, whatever you need to do, I want to leave here with mobile service. So had I been thinking, I could have said like, thank you so much for your help. Have a great rest of the day and gone to a different store. But I was in the
Yeah.
middle of conceding defeat.
Yeah. You wouldn't necessarily think about that. I understand.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, rolling over now. You got me. You won. Y'all
It's
won.
what it is wild when you have those things though where it's absurd and you're like, this is absurd. And the company's going, and I think we've all had those things
Oh,
where
yeah.
you go, it's absurd. And the company's the people at the like the customer service or whatever are like, yes, you're right. It is absurd. And we're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, great. So let's fix it. And they're like, yeah, I don't know.
I know. It's so, and I mean, that's what people find so strange about the story. And I do too. They're like, So someone did this by accident and they couldn't just undo it. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, they couldn't undo it.
Well, and I think I mean I don't want to be like, back in my day, but I think so much of customer service now is uh, it's like people working from home that just get a basic script and they can handle basic problems. I mean, because I do this with, I will say, the lovely place where I board my dogs, which is not board my dog that my dogs go to day camp, which is a lovely company. Um, and they take very good care of my dogs when they're there, and the staff at the place is excellent. But they have a call center. It's a call center to book, and you just have no idea what you're going to get, and it's clearly a thing that they have outsourced to people working at home. And again, they get a basic script and they can maybe do basic things, maybe, hopefully.
Mm.
Um, but it's not a high skill set. And that always gets frustrating because it's like I'm not trying to do a complicated thing here. I just want to know if I can bring in my dogs on Tuesday. And I'll say that and I'm like, I want to bring my dogs in for day camp, and I'll get like, okay, great. So what will so you'll be packing up all their food and bringing their food? I'm like, no, they're just in for the day camp. It's fine. They don't need food. Okay, so you're gonna bring blankets for their own blankets for them to sleep in, and how many days? I'm like, it's the one
The afternoon, just the
afternoon. It's
afternoon.
just I gave you times.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
and
did.
you want the midnight de-shedding service? I'm like, no, they're not going to be there at midnight. They're not. So,
Oh, I know. It's so
and you're
tough.
just like, okay. And in that case, it's just like a slightly frustrating thing because I want to just be quick and not be on the phone. It's
Yeah.
not like something is messed up, although sometimes they mess it up. But the people at the place are nice. So when I go in, they can just be like, oh, this looks messed up. And I'm like, okay, no, this is what I wanted.
Yeah, and at least they can fix it when you get there. Like, oh, they're going to be here from 1 to 5 this afternoon. Like,
Yeah.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right. They're not going to be here the first to the fifth.
Right.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Maybe I should get me a little side gig doing customer service.
Ugh, I don't know. It sounds annoying. It sounds annoying from both ends. Because I
Yeah.
think, like, I feel bad for, I think the people who, again, and I don't know if this is the case with your phone company. I'm just speculating, but I think it's annoying to be them as well because, again, they're not. It's not like you're in an office where you have people you can interact with and develop a skill set. It's like a high turnover job that doesn't pay very well,
Hmm.
and you're working at home and you get maybe a book and a computer program to log into. And if something goes wrong, you don't know what to do. And I think a lot of times you're penalized. Like, oh, if you try to send it to somebody else, you just get penalized.
Oh, is
You know,
that it?
I'm sure. I mean, they do all sorts of things. Like, you have to do a certain number of calls, and if you know, so I think there are a lot of ways that companies make sure you're not just passing off. You know, they have punishments if you try to pass off a thing to someone else, and you probably don't even know who to pass it off to because you're just a person working in your basement. So I feel like it's annoying from like every angle.
That was the weird thing with the mobile provider. Everyone kept talking about a back office where you could
Hmm.
escalate things to the back office. Even in the store, they said, oh, they can do more, with the back office. I don't think the back office exists.
I bet there's not a back office. I would agree.
Yeah, because the words like, can we escalate this? That didn't help.
Yeah,
Um, and even I'm enough in corporate to understand like help ticket escalation and whatnot. Like that's the
sure.
word. Um, may I speak to a supervisor, please? That didn't. There was also some talk of supervisors. I don't think they exist. I mean,
Yeah,
so I feel like at this point, I should really just be glad with what I've got and I should not try to get money back. I really want some credit. I don't think they're going to give it to me, but I'm going to go for it.
it's
I,
worth a shot.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, at least now that I've got a phone, I can just call.
um, speaking of technology, this might be a segue.
Yeah,
I don't know that we're gonna get to our hot picks. I don't know how much time we have left either. But do you?
I do. I set a timer. So we've got a
Okay.
couple more minutes here.
How much time do you think would you say we have left?
We had been talking maybe for 4 minutes when I set the timer, and now we're at 42.
All right. Say, so we're probably going to get to hot picks next week, but this was interesting. And so I'm looking at a piece in BBC News, and this was interesting. And the piece doesn't have a lot of detail, and I couldn't find a lot of detail, which is my way of apologizing for not having like specific examples of this. But I thought it was interesting. So, um, this is from a piece in BBC News by Tom Singleton that says baby monitors, titled "Baby Monitors and Smart Sneak." Baby monitors and smart speakers enabling abuse, say MPs. Um, Fitness trackers, home security systems, and baby monitors are among the devices that MPs warn are enabling the growing issue of tech-enabled domestic abuse. So, the Culture, Media, and Sport Committee of the UK Parliament says that on average, there are an average of 9 such smart products in UK homes. I think it's probably not that different here.
I would think
Um,
not.
but so they talk about, and again, I wish there were examples of this, but I thought it was interesting. So it found that they were being used to monitor, harass, coerce, and control victims by collecting recordings and images. And they're working on legal solutions. So this quote here from Dame Carolyn Dinenage, who chairs the committee. I apologize, Dame Carolyn. While the rising popularity of connected technology has brought undoubted benefits to everyday life, the flip side is the real risk some of these gadgets pose to privacy and personal safety online. So the idea with this is essentially that, let's say you're, and I'm providing an example just to make that's not here,
Yeah.
but it's sort of the idea that, like, if you're in a domestic abuse situation,
Mm-hmm.
your spouse has technology available that makes it easy to track you, makes it easy to see what you're doing and where you're going, makes it easy to find out what you're doing when you're at home. With children, they talked about. During its investigation, the committee says it heard evidence that the vast majority of domestic abuse cases now feature some sort of cyber element, including the use of spyware and perpetrators
Yeah.
monitoring movements and collecting recordings and photos of victims and survivors. And then they talked about, children being particularly vulnerable, either from that angle or from, inadvertently or ill-advisedly, making tracking information available, things like that. So I thought this was interesting. I mean, not good interesting, but it's sort of an angle I had not given too much thought to some of this smart technology.
It's one that I think about, especially with, I think it's called an air tag.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big issue with, for example, an abusive spouse putting an air tag on the abused spouse's vehicle
Mm.
and tracking that spouse's movements. There is definitely the stuff with the phone, like all of that stuff is really common. And, because there's a good reason for it too, like with the parents who have the parental features on their kids' phones so that they can find out where their kids are at all times.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that is good. But then I think about when I was a teenager and like maybe we went dancing instead of out for coffee. That's probably not something that can happen as much anymore.
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff is, as a parent, I can see why you'd want that.
Yeah.
There's also I don't know, there's sort of an element too of being a kid and sneaking around being kind of part of your job.
Right. And then I'm thinking about things like I have security cameras at my house, and when I'm out of town, I can go and look at them and I receive notifications about them
Mhm.
on my phone. I don't know what it would take for somebody else to access my security system hub, but I could definitely see there's got to be some kind of way where if I had been with a partner, we would both have access to the security camera hub. If something happened and they moved out, they could still be monitoring me and who comes to my home through those cameras.
Yeah, or some of the stuff so ubiquitous. You've got things that can record your voice and whatever. Some of it, so you've got things that, I think Mike and I, if we look hard enough, can see where each other is because of our phone. I think we can. I think we can. I think there's a way. I don't do it, but I think there's a way we can find out where the other one is just by looking up something on our phone.
Yeah.
And I don't care because I'm not sneaking off anywhere. I'm very dull. But
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 if
that's
it
the kind
is
of thing where
somebody
if
who
you
wants to know your movements, or for example, in the abuse situation, if it's security cameras, the one partner suddenly gets a new partner,
yeah.
and that becomes dangerous because the partner who left, the ex, is now seeing someone else new coming to the house. That's a threat, anger, escalation.
Yeah, and I don't know what I don't know what the potential legal solutions are, but I thought it was interesting to bring up because it's definitely something to try to be aware of. I guess have some situational awareness of your exposure.
Yeah.
The potential, again, you might have you might have monitoring cameras inside your house that you don't even think about. Or, like you said, who's got does my
Yeah. Who has
am I
access to your
am I
cameras or your speakers?
am I in a domestic abuse situation and I've got a friend coming over to chat with me about it while my husband's out. I've not even remembering that the we have the cameras to monitor the kids or whatever, the
Right.
dogs. So again, I don't know what the big solution is, but I think it's definitely something to be
It
we could
certainly
all
is.
serve to be aware of because we forget they're so ubiquitous that we forget a lot of it. We just forget it's there.
Right. And I know, like, if I have a house guest or something, I will actually point out the cameras and be like, this one looks at this, this one looks at this,
Hmm.
just so that they know, like, these cameras are looking at you if you're here, but they're not when you're there.
That's a good thing to do because I know I get a little. I will have that thought occasionally if I'm, I don't know when the last time I stayed with friends with it was before COVID, but I have that sort of thought of like, not that I'm going to be doing anything, but I'm just a
No,
weirdo.
but I just don't necessarily, me wandering around just being me, like, I don't want to be filmed if I don't know that I'm being filmed, even if I'm doing nothing, like I'm pacing and brushing my teeth. Like, if there's a camera on me, I want to know.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's the same thing. I don't want to. Yeah, if I get up in the night in my underwear and I'm scratching my butt and I just, it's, if I'm staying, I'm just a weirdo. I'm gonna get up in the night and wander around. I'm gonna like,
Well, at least need a drink of water or something, or I'll want to go use the bathroom. So if there's like some camera in the hall,
that's it. Just tell me so I know where to pick my nose. Like just.
yeah. And that's why I point them out and I let people know, like, these and these and these.
So there's the one over the toilet, and
Right.
then the ones over the bed.
Yeah.
Every place else,
Every
you
place
have
else, you're
complete
fine.
privacy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, yeah,
I love that
because at night after my shower, I like to review like the security camera footage of how that went.
of the toilet. Yeah,
Well,
I
my bathroom
respect
is
that.
very small, so the one above the toilet just catches everything.
Why can I see you? Why can I imagine you having found some article about healthy bowel movements or something and reviewing your bowel movement camera to make sure you're doing it right? Why can I actually kind of see that?
I think you can, because for a while I was doing my sleep study
Right.
and I had a camera by the side of my bed watching me flail as I slept.
I don't think I'm gonna use the bath. Actually, I don't care who watches me pee. That's fine. So you can watch me pee if you want.
Well, I mean, it's fine because, I guess I do have all those creepy paintings in the powder room.
Yeah.
There probably would be a way I could conceal cameras behind some of the dolls' eyes.
If you monetize videos of me going to the bathroom though, I
Do
definitely
you
want
want
to
to
cut of that.
cut?
I
I'll give you
definitely
a
want to
cut.
cut of that. Yeah.
That's what's going to get you the invite to the online sex parties.
Finally.
What you've always been wanting. And with that beautiful bow on this show, did a
Yeah.
little callback. We're going to wrap it up for the day. Thanks so much for tuning into the Sound of Tomorrow on WAYO LP Rochester. And we'll be back with more Sound of Tomorrow fun. We think it's fun
Question mark?
sometimes.
Yeah.
Next week, stay tuned to WAYO for more great radio content.
I thought that was just fabulous.
That was.